Right, that's it. I've had it. No, you're not getting this. You're not getting me looking good to talk about the worst films of 2024. I refuse to be really hot. I'm now going to be relaxed and just annoyed, and we're just going to talk about them. Here they come. All right, number one of my worst films of 2024 is The Exorcism, an absolute piece of shit starring Russell Crowe as a troubled actor who begins to exhibit disturbing behaviour while shooting a horror film that is not supposed to be based on The Exorcist and what happened during that, but kind of is. His estranged daughter, for whatever reason, is very, very gay. Is wondering why he's slipping back into his past addictions and if there's anything sinister going on at play. Yes, there is. There was a lack of script, lack of excitement, and a lack of good acting by everyone. Russell Crowe's voice could be moved by a bulldozer. It is so gravelly in this film. And the director, Joshua John Miller, did a pretty woeful job, or a good job if he was directing a Nine Inch Nails film clip, because that's pretty much what this thing looked like. I don't know if it's your fault, director, but the editors certainly made that film for you. Even Niles from Frasier couldn't save it. It's an absolute piece of poo. So boring. So, Rusty, thanks very much for wrecking my time at the cinema. I'm just now hot. I'm now just going to drink water, holy water, so I can dispense that film from my memory. Peace be with you. Number 9 in my worst films of 2024 is Walden. The only thing I liked was doing that during the review and whilst watching this film. It stars Emile Hirsch, that we haven't seen enough of. He was in Speed Racer and Into the Wild. As Walden Dean, he is a stenographer who witnesses a whole heap of injustices in the courtroom and decides to take matters into his own hands. The only thing, it takes so long for that to happen, and it kind of skirts on being so ridiculous that it's a comedy, but then quite graphically violent for some unknown reason, and it doesn't do that line very well at all. It could have been a really interesting film, and it also has the guy from Walk to Remember in it that I've forgotten what his name is. It'll come to me in a minute, but he's in it, and Luke Davis is in it, who's an intellectually disabled gentleman who is really, really good. But yeah, for me, this film is Shane West. That's the bloke's name, Shane West. Shane West is good. Emile Hirsch should be in better things than this. The film is just so midday afternoon written all over it that it should, that's exactly where it should be and remain there always, and not be seeing anything past midday at any stage. Because most people are at work, and that's what you should be doing, not watching this. So Walden is my number 9 worst film of 2024. I like Liz Hurley. Well, at least I thought I liked her. Maybe I liked her for the wrong reason, because her acting in this, as well as the acting on everyone else, is absolutely horrendous. That film is Piper. It's a film directed by Anthony Waller, and it had Elizabeth Hurley playing this history school teacher that brings her daughter, for some unknown reason, to her Hamlin, which is, of course, where the Pied Piper is. And wouldn't you know it, the lesson she's going to start teaching is about the Pied Piper. Do you reckon they've ever heard that before? Yeah. And then she's just surrounded by terrible, terrible side characters. This young heartthrob for Amy that doesn't make any sense. This weird mum who gives her Tic Tacs doesn't make any sense. The CGI makes sense because they probably had about $1.50 to spend on it, because that's as bad as it is. And it is just not exciting. It's terribly scripted, terribly acted, terrible CGI. I mean, how many more words do you want me to use terrible for? And it's just boring and ridiculous. Yes, it might be a whole heap of cheese, but it's bad cheese. Elizabeth Hurley looks amazing though. That coat she wears, pretty spot on. I hope you kept your wardrobe, Liz, because that's the only thing you're going to keep, not your credibility after this film. Anyway, Piper is my number 8. Whew. And number 7, a film that just annoys me so much. because when you have a budget of $250 million and you're paying your main actor $50 million of that to act in this particular production that he has absolutely zero charisma in, I think that is money extremely poorly spent, especially when you could probably make 5, maybe 6 really great films with a really solid script and not being a vacuous corporate mess like Red 1 is. It gets me really cranky. It's not that it's a terrible film, it's just a ridiculous waste of money, because the film doesn't do anything to inject humor, excitement, pathos, anything. Enjoyment, I think, is the main thing, right? Enjoyment. We're not getting any enjoyment out of this film. We're just getting a big corporate mess where nothing really happens. It's bored. I was in a cinema where a kid behind me, that, you know, going with the family to watch this movie in a cinema, went, "Can we go yet? Oh, this is boring. I don't like those. Oh, is it over yet?" If a little kid is doing that, then we probably need to revisit this film. Terrible. Red 1. Vacuous mess. Putting this list together, it reminded me what I had to endure for my number 6 film, which was The Strangers Chapter 1. Oh my God, which is a film about breaking down your car and ending up in a small town where 2 young people are forced to spend the night in a remote cabin where they're terrorized by these masked vigilantes that seem to be threatening them for no particular reason. And no particular reason or motive is exactly what the problem is. There is no reason, there is no motive to watch this film. There is no reason why Rennie Harlin, the director of Die Hard 2 and, you know, and Cliffhanger, should have made a film like this. It's horrendous. They actually, not only did he make one film, he's made 3 films back to back, thinking it's going to be so good. Well, let's hope the one thing that they put in the other 2 films is something that is severely lacking from this. Interest, motive, scares. It's a horror film. Boring. Chapter 1 can go and get stuffed, and chapter 2 better be half decent. Otherwise, Rennie Harlin, I'm coming to get you. Number 5. A film that is like it's written for me. A film about an author who writes espionage novels about secret agents and global spies, then happens to realize that one of her plots of her book might be a little bit closer to the truth than she first thought, and she becomes embroiled in real life, real world spy events through Sam Rockwell and you know, all the rest of it. Anyway, this film is also directed by Matthew Vaughn, who did Kick-Ass that I loved, who did the first Kingsman film that I loved. So this film should be written for me. It has Henry Cavill starring as a spy, something that he probably should have been with James Bond, but did so very well in A Man from U.N.C.L.E. This is written for me. It sounds like Romance in the Stone. It's supposed to have throwbacks to the 80s, the films of the 80s, but the films in the 80s didn't have terrible CGI. They didn't have vacuous characters. They didn't have terrible story plotting. They didn't have a whole heap of stuff thrown on the screen for no particular reason. Oh, some films in the 80s did, but not the ones that this film cites, i.e. Back to the Future, Die Hard. No. And all the James Bond films. No. This is just a waste of talent. Once again, waste of talent, waste of time, waste of space. Argyle is a disaster. They even take the chauffeur's name from Die Hard and insert it as the title of the film. That's how much they're trying to hark back to those films. No. Look at those films and acknowledge that there is no CGI in those films. That it is real life, real time stuff. And that's exactly what we need. We need real time, real life stuff written by real people, not AI. Or a pop star. Was it? Chauncey, the scary little bear that was so well featured in some viral advertising that happened for the film that is called Imaginary. That is so very different to what we end up getting, which is so bloody boring. Imaginary is boring. It's not even generic boring. It's just boring. Nothing happens. So I think this film made about 43 million at the box office, which is very surprising for me, because that almost means that it's worth having a sequel for, which scares me so much. DeWanda Wise is okay in this, but too polished and doesn't really look scared enough. The third act is absolutely ridiculous. The film should have been scarier. The little bear should be frightening. Everything that happens should be frightening, but it's not. It's just head-bangingly boring that nothing happens. So safe that it is so boring. Maybe it's so safe that it needs to be locked away and never seen by anyone. I should not be sitting here in 2024 and having as my number 3 worst film of the year a Ghostbusters film, because Ghostbusters Frozen Empire has all the trimmings for being great. It's set back in the firehouse in New York. It has this great new set of Ghostbusters that we're introduced to in the Afterlife film. It has new ghosts. It has a slightly interesting premise about things freezing over. It's got Paul Rudd in it, for God's sake. But this film is kind of like Dan Aykroyd went, I'm going to hold on to nostalgia as long and as tight as I can, whilst 15 other people come up with the best ideas for a film in total. And then I'm just going to choose bits and pieces out of all of them to make a film out of it, to keep this IP alive. It's so boring, and it's just an incoherent mess. It's got some good set pieces that fall apart because there's nothing to hold it all together. There's no slime. There's no ectoplaque to tie all this together. There's nothing. I'm not sure what an ectoplaque is, but it sounds like something that could come out of Ghostbusters anyway. Oh, what a squandered opportunity. Frozen Empire, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, is my number 3 worst film of 2024. Please do better. My number 2 film is an example of just how surprising it can be to have one of the best actresses in one of your favourite films of the year, one of your favourite part of your favourite directing team of your favourite film ever, and one of your favourite genres all coming together and it not working. That film is Drive Away Dolls, or Drive Away Dykes as it was once called. It's an American crime comedy road movie directed by Ethan Coen, yes, one half of the Coen brothers, with a screenplay that was directed by his wife, Trisha Cook, who also happens to be the film's editor, and probably the only reason why this film even exists. Margaret Qualley stars with Geraldine Vista Nathan as 2 lesbian best friends that go on a road trip together and then become involved in a criminal scheme. It has a really fun little cameo at the start by someone that I don't really want to say. Well, it's Pedro Pascal, because I don't want you to watch the movie, and has Benny Steinfeld in this as well. This is an example of extremely annoying characters speaking at you, and then speaking at the characters on the screen, and then speaking at you again, and then also having really trippy psychological whack out montages in the middle of what's supposed to be a story. Oh, Trisha Cook. I mean, Ethan Coen, I just hope that you're in the good books. You've clearly done something really wrong, that you have to make it up to your wife by letting her take control of this movie, both in the story writing process and in the editing process, because it is pants. It's so annoying. It just did my head in. You can see little twinges of what make Coen Brothers films so great. But Ethan, if you're going to make a film, my friend, on your own, don't bring your wife with you, because this is bad. This is really, really bad on so many levels. So don't see Drive Away Dolls. It is just pants. Ladies' pants. All right, my number one. Oh, sorry, forgot I was doing the worst of list. Okay, hang on. My number one worst film of the year. Oh, it just went all over me. Nothing to celebrate. That's exactly what I felt when I watched Madam Web. I felt like it shot its web all over me, which is a terrible thing to think about. But Madam Web, wow. The film where nothing happens. That champagne exploding in my face was more entertaining than anything I saw on screen for nearly 2 hours watching that film with big name stars Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney, who outside of that, this film had a pretty good run this year. What with Immaculate and Anyone But You. Boy. Wow. This film was made for $100 million. And one thing they forgot to do was to get a screenwriter that was not working on Morbius to come and write the thing. Because it's terrible. It's really bad. Like, it's laughably bad. So bad that Dakota Johnson actively tried to distance herself from the film and even made fun of the film during the publicity of it, which to me makes complete sense because I think it's horrendous. I think Sydney Sweeney was brought on for about 6 weeks of filming, and then there was a subsequent reshoots that went on for a long time. The baddie in this is so one note, and the ADR is so horrifically bad. They clearly had to dub some of his incestuous dialogue. The film is supposed to now not be set in the 90s, but it's so clearly not set anywhere near the current day because no one has a mobile phone, which could have solved a lot of problems throughout the entire film. So just stick with the era. I don't know. Maybe their budget blew out so much that they couldn't afford a Nirvana song to play or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's bad, right? It's bad. It's probably one of those films that in years to come people will watch and go, "Ha, it's so bad, it's good." I will not be one of those people because I never want to see Madam Web again. It's a vacuous mess. Thank you, Sony Spider-Man Cinematic Universe, for giving us pretty shit films. Kraven the Hunter was pretty bad, but that is nothing on this film. Madam Web, congratulations. You are the worst film of 2024. If you haven't watched my best of video, please do so, but I would like to thank all of my supporters for this, Universal, Roadshow, Paramount, Walden Entertainment, sorry Pete, to Event Cinemas, to Radio Metro, to my family, to my friends for putting up with me, and my family for putting up for me for doing all this stuff, and to you for watching all of my videos. Thank you once again for your support this year. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, tell your friends, tell your next door neighbors, tell your goldfish, tell your dog. Tell your dog in a very high-pitched voice because that's all they understand. And I look forward to seeing you all in 2025 for more great films. Hopefully 2025's list of bad films is not as bad as this. Anyway, see you next year. Bye. I'm going to drink now and have this explode in my face. Bye.